Alright guys, welcome back to Home Theater Gurus. This is update 2 of the house build. As you can see, we've got siding on it. Wife picked the colors. She likes blue. I wasn't too sure about it, but now I think it's gonna be alright. So here's the garage. We've got a 28 by 25 foot garage, 2-car garage. And as you see, we've sheetrocked this entire wall right here. And this is a firewall, and this is so the spray foamers can spray foam the back side of that. They're in this week, and they're gonna be in all next week, finishing up all the installation. This is all gonna be spray foam. The ceiling up there is gonna be spray foam. We're gonna leave that exposed. So we've got the 2 Devastator alcoves right here. And there's a 3rd alcove you'll see right here in the middle. That's for the Triad Gold LCR. I mean, it really is a beast. In-game speaker, if you will. But anyway, so that's a 4-inch wall. I wasn't gonna put a 2x6 wall up for this entire room. So we just did a little alcove right there, and I came out about 8 inches so I could spray foam behind it, get some insulation in there too. And we'll put some shelves in here and everything so it doesn't look kind of goofy as much as possible with the Devastators right there. But hey, you know, you gotta make sacrifices sometimes. All right, so over here we got a little half bath. And this is our shop over here. So this is where we're gonna be doing filming in the future. Projects like speaker building, subwoofers. We're gonna talk about some stuff in a minute. Some subwoofers are gonna be building, and also got some cool things happening in here. There's 3 systems, a bedroom system, a living room system, and of course the dedicated home theater. And there's some issues I ran into that I think some of you are really gonna like the solution we come up with, especially like open concept living rooms, how to deal with, you know, where you can't place a speaker. So anyway, I did all the electrical in this house. I actually did a lot of the framing because my framers, anyway, we had a lot of issues with the framers. I actually had to finish the punch list, and it's like every day I'm finding something they screwed up. Anyway, I've got everything labeled nice and neat. Still have to put the breakers in. We've already passed inspection for the in-wall rough in. So anyway, this hay is gonna be out here. We've got horses and my wife. It's been raining. The wife saw an empty spot and was like, she stuck the hay bale right here. So that won't be here for long. Got a little half bath right here. And a little JBL 305 sitting right there, entertaining the house as we work. All right, let's go in the main entrance. Let's see what we've got here. And as you see, the floors are all covered in house wrap. The insulation guys came in and they're actually prepping the walls, and they started with the floors. And we're gonna talk about this in a minute. I'm sure you see this right away. Like, what is that? That's probably the best type of insulation that I can think of, you know, for sound walls. And we're gonna discuss that in a few minutes. But the floors are all done. Me and the wife and the kids jumped in here about 2 weeks ago, and we scrubbed all these floors with like a floor scrubber, like a janitorial floor scrubber. We cleaned and cleaned with the shop vacs and, you know, the squeegees. I mean, it's a lot of work, but we stained the floors, concrete stained. We did this in our last house. Here's a few pictures, and we loved it. But anyway, the floors are super easy to do. It's just, I say easy. The steps are simple. It's just a lot of elbow grease, a lot of cleaning and scrubbing. You gotta have the floors really clean. So when we get done, we'll just, you know, with painting, trim, and all that, like ready to move in, we'll pull this off. The floors are done, they're ready to go. We just have 2 rooms we're gonna be getting carpet in. But 2,500 square feet of flooring cost us $600, maybe $500 to $600. It was pretty cheap. But, you know, and if we don't like it, we can always come back with laminate. We're only in it for $600. All right, so when we walk in or enter the house from the hallway, over here is where we're gonna be doing a lot of our YouTube videos. Any type of gear we're gonna be reviewing, that's gonna happen here, or most of it's gonna happen in here. You know, speakers, subwoofers, things like that. We're all set up for it. Even have a dedicated 20 amp circuit for, like, you know, an amplifier, stuff like that. And then of course we have another dedicated 20 amp for the TV and, you know, Xboxes and stuff like that. And then over here, we're gonna have like a little office, kind of an open concept office over here. We've had it closed off before and really didn't like it. So anyway, you see there's a lot going on in this wall. We've got Smurf tube going up, and that's that blue pipe. Blue, I guess that's why they call it Smurf. But so that's, some of that stuff has empty, so we can run, you know, future wiring and stuff up and down. And but a lot of it, we had to use something like that because of the type of insulation we're getting. And you'll notice this right here, this is like a little channel I made so I can run HDMI from here down into the rack or my equipment, you know, console right here. So the insulation we're gonna be doing, the way it works is they put this netting up and they staple it, and they've got this little $1,200 staple gun. It's like, I should have got a video of it, it's pretty cool. But anyway, so they put the netting up, and then they come with a hose, and they'll cut a little slit in here and stick the hose in, and then they have a machine that's gonna blow insulation in here. And it's fiberglass based insulation. Their machine just breaks it up and shoves it through the, you know, pushes it through the hose and into the wall, and it just fills that whole wall cavity up. So the good thing about that is everything is filled. All the little nooks and crannies and crevices are completely filled, and where this is a 5.5-inch wall because it has a 2x6 bottom plate and top plate. You know, it's not like if you were just a weave R13 in there where you're only getting, you know, a couple inches thick of insulation, and then, you know, in the corners it's actually kind of pushed tight together. Here we're gonna have full depth insulation. And of course, you've already gone over, you know, the beauty of a staggered stud wall. You know, this right here, when you beat on this side of the wall, that stud back in there that you can kind of see, it's on the other side of the wall. So it's not gonna vibrate, sound isn't gonna transmit through it. You're gonna have a little bit because of the top and bottom plate. They are mechanically fastened together, you know, but that's gonna be very minimal. The STC, or the sound rating of how much sound it blocks, I mean, it's very, very high, especially for the price. You know, you're talking about just an extra set of 2x4s, or, you know, basically double the 2x4s you need for this wall, and then a 2x6 bottom and top plate. Of course, prices of lumber's up right now, but I mean, normally this wall might cost you 50 bucks extra to do this, you know, 75 top. So, I mean, it's sound walls. This is by far the cheapest and most effective, you know, per dollar method. All right, so let's talk about the layout we're gonna have in this room real quick. This is gonna be a 4.1.4. Now, when I say a 4, that means no center channel. It's not a 5, it's a 4. And the reason I have no center channel is because it's a living room, and I personally don't like the look of a center channel. I just like a more clean look. About 10 years ago, or maybe about 12 years ago, I decided to try, you know, I was reading some stuff online, and I decided to try it with no center channel, and actually I loved it. And if you think about it, and that's what made me decide this, was thinking, you know, all these people, they'll go on and on about how great their 2-channel is. You know, we've got great 2-channel, imaging is perfect, you know, it's placing instruments all through the room. You know, I'm thinking, well, why do I need a center channel? And of course, there's a lot of stuff to back this up online. And horizontal centers have issues, you know, 30 degrees-ish off axis is usually nulls, but you don't have to deal with that. And also, horizontal center channels pull the vocals off of the screen. You know, you want them anchored to the screen. So there's some issues there, and I just didn't like the way it looked. And I tried it and I loved it. I mean, it actually sounded better to me, sounded better. Now, of course, your sweet spot is much smaller when you have, you know, just mains, because you're relying on a phantom center image. But for us, we don't care. You know, here we've got a 28-foot deep room. We're gonna be sitting right here around 12 feet. So me and the wife, you know, we're gonna have the 2 center seats, you know, here and here. We're gonna get great sound. We're gonna have a great center image. Now, if we move past that, you know, you start to get to the 3rd seat out here and the 4th, you know, those outer seats, or anyone sitting over here, of course, they're not gonna they're not gonna have a center image, but they don't care. It's kids watching cartoons. It's, you know, people over watching football. But if I wanna have an awesome sound and really critical listening, I can do that right here in these 2 center seats. And I have a dedicated home theater. Of course, we're gonna have a center behind the screen in there. So it's just something to think about. All right, and of course we've got a top front going up there and over there and back there and back there. Now, of course, these are all angle based. Everything is laid off of angles. I use the same procedure I use for my clients, my room design clients. I mean, I have a plan for each of the 3 systems I have. So before I go further, you see that little buckle right there? That's where we're sitting. To the left where it says hole, that's an outlet, but the one to the right, that's actually speaker wire coming from over there. And that is gonna feed tactile transducers. I love them. I mean, I don't wanna have to have it cranked to stupid levels to get a tactile response. And that's where those come in. You get a tactile response at any level. So I don't care if you got 35 21s in your room, you're gonna have to crank it to feel it. So we know how the Atmos are placed, and we've got an in-wall going over here for the right surround, perfectly placed. But over here on the left, we've got nothing. It's open to a kitchen. So I had all kind of crazy ideas, you know, how am I gonna do this and keep it clean? I thought about putting a little end table or side table beside the sofa and putting a potted plant, painting the speaker, camouflaging it, trying to hide it in the leaves. I mean, just all kind of goofy ideas because I didn't want to look at a speaker. So then it hit me, why don't I use the floor? You know, I was thinking in Atmos, they use the ceiling to place a speaker acoustically, place a speaker where it's not. You know, it doesn't sound as good, of course, as a speaker actually being there, but I mean, heck, it's the best you can do and it works. So then I thought, why don't I use the ceiling, slide a speaker far enough out to where I can bounce the sound off of the floor and back to the seating area. Now I'm using the Paradigm Pro series in here. The bedroom's getting the Paradigm Home series, and of course you have a Triad demo room going in the theater, but we have a PA80. That's what's going in all the Atmos speakers, including that surround. Now we're gonna have an in-wall over here because we can properly place it. So I'm gonna take that PA80 with a 30-degree angle, and I've calculated where it needs to be, where it should theoretically sound like it's coming from my left, properly placed left speaker. Now I'll get up there after we build the house. We'll actually do it on the channel. Once the house is built, I'm gonna place that. I'm not gonna place it now because I wanna get up there and I wanna actually play pink noise, have someone sit right here while I slide it back and forth while, you know, and the image should move left or up and down as I slide that speaker. When we get it locked into place where we want it, and that's where I will install it. So anyway, that's just a cool idea. Now if it works out and I can actually calculate the angles once I do some experimenting, I'll use this in room plans. I mean, we do open concept, even though most of the plans are dedicated theaters. You know, this is something that could be a lot of fun to try out and tweak it, and then once I get it tweaked to perfection, we'll begin using it. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the other system in the master bedroom. Before we do, take a look at this wall here. See, that's just R13. I'm actually doing the R13 installation because it's, you know, it's cheap and something I can easily do myself. But a lot of times people will think of like rock wool, and you know, is like the best you can get. The problem with rock wool is it has to be installed perfectly, but just so does R13. R13 and rock wool are actually very similar as far as coefficient or their specs. If you look at their specs and their absorption ratings at different frequencies, there's not really much difference. So it's not really better than R13, but it's easier to install because as you see R13, we staple it on the front. You get all these gaps right here. And you know, around outlets and stuff like that. But you have that same problem with rock wool or Safe and Sound. You know, with wires and speaker wires and, you know, electrical cable and all this stuff in the wall at Romex. You know, you ought to see the wall over there where we're gonna be, you know, the living room. I mean, it looks like spaghetti. It would be just, there's no way you can get all that stuff sealed. And then like, you know, right here, you're pushing it to where you're not getting a full depth of insulation. And the depth of insulation dictates how deep it can absorb, which I mean, we're just in a wall. We're just trying to absorb resonance. Of course, in here, we've got a stud right there. We don't, you know, so this side is coupled to the other side. So there's only so much we can do. But then you've also got problems like this. You know, your walls are not always framed. Even though it's 16" on center, they're not always framed properly. You know, and that stud right there is actually crooked. I mean, it's just, you fight issues like that with rock wool and R13. So, you know, the blown in insulation is just so superior because it's gonna be perfect and feel every little crevice. All right, so here's the master suite, and we've got insulation. You know, we've got the staggered studs around the shower side in between it and the master bathroom and the living room. But then also right here, we've got a kid's bathroom, kid's bedroom. This is my youngest daughter's bedroom right here. I put R13 in there as well. So it's gonna be nice and quiet in the master area. I keep wanting to say master suite, but that just sounds kind of, I don't know, pinky finger up kind of thing, I don't know. Anyway, you come in here and that R13 just sucks up all the sound. I mean, God, I'm sure y'all can hear that. Sometimes, you know, I'm sure my wife's gonna be looking for me and I'll be over here talking to myself, you know, nah. You know, because I mean, it's eerie being right here. And this is another reason you don't want to do a home theater that's all absorption. It sucks all the life out of the room. But anyway, so right here we've got closets and we've got absorption on those walls, or we've got the sound, you know, some sound treatment in those walls back there. Really didn't have to even do that because we've got a wall with doors, you know, for those closets, and then another wall. But it's cheap to go ahead and just put a little extra, you know, just to kind of surround the perimeter of the master area. All right, so let's look at the master bedroom itself. We're gonna talk about these in a minute. You'll see a lot of these horizontally placed boxes. I got some cool switches going in here. I'll put a link down in the description, but we're gonna discuss that in just a minute. But so here's the master bedroom. You'll see the ceiling is a design I came up with where it's actually like a tray ceiling, but it's gonna look like it floats. So nowhere, at least in head level, you have to get up on a ladder, you're not gonna be able to see the back wall above that tray. So it's gonna look like it's floating. I've got LEDs going in, that's, you know, right here where it says tray, that's to that. The switches we're putting in are actually voice activated, work with Alexa or a phone app, so we can actually say, Alexa, turn on the tray lights, or whatever we wanna call it, boom, they'll come on. Anyway, so that wall over there is where the bed's gonna be. Headboard's gonna be against this wall. We got a place for a sub and our power for our sub. We're gonna go over there on the channel. We're gonna build the sub for under the bed, you know, and make it something that'll fit under most people's beds and performs really well. All right, so now I'm dug down about where head level will be once there's a bed in here, and I'm really looking forward to my bed. All right, so you look up there, you'll see some 2x4 stripping, and you'll see a cutout. Right up there, we're gonna have a mount, electronic or powered mount for a TV. And I'll put like a 65 or 70 inch, you know, we're like 7 or 8 feet away from it when we're gonna be in the bed here. And it's gonna be nice and comfortable because we're not having to crank our head down like this to see the TV. But by doing that up here, we've had to actually tilt the entire bed layer up, which is gonna tilt the Atmos and everything. But it's gonna keep everything anchored to that screen versus, you know, having the screen up here, but the sound coming from down here, that'd be kind of jacked up. So you'll see a cutout right there. I've got the left main going there, the right main going there, of course, no center. And right up here, you'll see those are actually top fronts, not top middle, even though they're above us. It's top fronts because the entire bed layer, remember, has been tilted, so everything has to tilt with it. And then we've got a left surround and a right surround. So this one is a 4.2.1. And here's my closet. It's gonna have the audio equipment in here. We've got a zone 2. Actually, I have a zone 2 in the living room that's gonna feed a Paradigm set up outside, outdoor speakers. I didn't mention that. I like Hios. It's cheap, I'm cheap. It works well, so we're gonna have one in here with Hios, one in there, so we'll be able to pull out our Hios app and work basically 4 zones from that one app. And over here, we're gonna have, you know, again, this is the Paradigm Home series. We're gonna, right there it is, we have a Paradigm Home. It's an in-ceiling stereo speaker, so it actually has a left and right. And there's actually one going in the kitchen with the Pro series. I didn't mention that. And we've got a volume switch right here for it. And you can also use the Hios app too for it. And one here for the master bath, and it's gonna be there. Now the master bathroom, you see it's a little bit different. This is an 8-foot wall right here for this shower stall. The ceiling is 10 feet, so it's gonna make it, you know, the room look bigger, feel a little bigger when you walk in. You know, things like that don't really cost more. They don't add any to the expense when you're building. It's just kind of, I like to do different things. Be a little different. Like this sunken floor, when they were forming up for the concrete, I jumped out here and framed this up or formed this up to sink this shower. So we'll just walk in it with no curb. So in this shower, we're gonna do something a little different. This is more popular like in Europe and places like that. I wanna do concrete. I like concrete. Like I said, I did concrete countertops in my 2 houses ago, the first one I ever built. And I mean, it turned out great. So I mean, I'm not afraid to mess with concrete. So I'm gonna do like a micro topping, probably put, you know, we'll have sheetrock, then Curdy, then a micro topping. And if I screw it up, I screw it up. Micro topping's pretty cheap, so it's not a big deal. But the idea is to have a concrete shower going around all in here, just all concrete. We have a really cool shower assembly that I found on Amazon, and I'll put a link to that too. I mean, this sucker is built like a tank, had great reviews, so I went for it. So it's got 3 different handles here. It's got a, right here is gonna be a handheld shower. We've got 6 water jets right here, so it's going to be like a car wash. I could just step in here and turn around. Then above us up there, we've got a 16-inch rain head. So, and it's got LEDs in it, so depending on the water temperature, the LEDs, you know, they change its colors. And it's actually fed by, or the water, the movement of water has like a, spins a little generator, and that's what it's powered by. So it's water powered, you don't have to change batteries. Anyway, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I've been taking showers in a camper, so maybe I've gone a little overboard, but I'm just ready for some room. All right, and over here, I'm gonna do a concrete sink, or that's the plan. It may be molded, like a molded sink that's molded into the countertop. Or we may actually do some kind of a wood feature here on this wall. And if we do that, we'll do wood across here with a concrete sink. So to kind of blend the room together. All right, what else? So these switches are gonna be glass switches. Just a piece of glass. Oh, and you see this one's got 3 devices that it's operating. So instead of needing a triple gang, we only need a single gang box. And it's really slim, so even though it's a lot of wires in there, it's gonna fit perfectly. I ordered one just so I could try it out, and hooked it to like a little lamp, plugged it into an outlet, and you know, just rigged it so I could try it. It worked great. I used it on my phone. You can label and see all the lights in your house. You can turn them on from anywhere in the world. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Places where we were gonna need 3-way switches, now we can just say, you know, Alexa, turn off the patio lights. You know, turn the hall lights off, whatever. So like right here, we're gonna do a 3-way switch. Now there's no need. So some of this stuff, you know, we made some changes along the way. And they're like 20, 25 bucks each. I'll put a link in the description. But like I said, they work really well. They look cool, just like a piece of glass with a button on it. And of course, here's our kitchen. And here's the audio volume knob or whatever for the stereo speaker that's gonna be right up there. All right, and we also have an alarm system. I installed the alarm system in the last house. We've got an alarm panel upstairs. Everything is hardwired and goes to that central point where that box is, the control box. We've got 2 control panels, one to program it. That's gonna be in a closet, and this is gonna be the primary one. This is gonna be a touchscreen control panel made by Honeywell. We had one in the last house. This is gonna be an updated version or a newer version, but they're really nice. Like I said, everything's hardwired. Programming the system is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but if you got instructions, just follow along. And you know, heck, I was able to do it, you know, my first time, so heck, that's saying something. But all in all, it was 500 bucks, maybe 6, somewhere between there, $500 and $600 for this whole system. So it's pretty affordable if you do it yourself. And it's pretty cool because if a window opens or a door opens, it'll say like kitchen door open or kitchen front window open, or if you want to name a bedroom after your kid, you know, little Jimmy's doors open or little Jimmy's climbing out the window. All right, and the home theater. So these doors are all 8-foot doors just for kind of scale. So when you walk in, we've got a 12-foot ceiling. This room is 12 feet tall, 23.5 from this wall here to that front wall over there, and it's 16.5 feet wide. Now, there's gonna be a lot of tricks in this room. This wall doesn't exist. I mean, I know you see a wall here. It's not getting sheetrock. It's gonna, basically, acoustically, it's not gonna exist. Now we've got our, the rears going right here, and we've got acoustic treatments on this entire wall and the face of it, and the bass waves that are able to get past all those, they're gonna get 6-7 inches of absorption right here. They're gonna hit this back wall and then come back. I mean, we're just gonna be beating the snot out of those modal issues that rooms have. You know, when people talk about taking a acoustic panel and putting it 2 inches off the wall, I mean, we're going 4.5, almost 5 feet off of the wall. So where 2 inches makes very minimal difference, where heck, in my opinion, it's really not worth it. With this distance here, we're really doing a lot of damage. And we're gonna have an 8-foot ceiling. And there's a return up there that's gonna drop down and be installed in that 8-foot ceiling. But above that, we're gonna have just a whole bunch of insulation. So we've got a humongous corner trap at the corners and tri-corner right there. This is where we're really gonna have an immense amount of bass energy. So, I mean, we're gonna have, and it's gonna come all the way out to here, just one huge bass trap. We do have a speaker going in up there for the Atmos top rear. We got the left and we got the right over there. You can see those 1x4s, that's where it's gonna be mounted. But it's gonna be pretty freaking awesome as far as base trapping goes. I don't do the base trapping where they're like visible in the room. I just use the room itself and little tricks like this. And all my room plans, you know, when we can, we implement stuff like this. It's one of those why not things. Equipment room, same thing, going with the 8-foot ceiling, base trapping above. And here is the bundle. Speaker wires, see everything's tagged and labeled. And the black wires are all 12-2 in-wall wire. Now that's feeding all of the bed layer. And we've got a pretty good stretch. You know, we're going 12 feet up, then back down. Then I had that metal up there. So I wasn't able to just come down the ceiling a straight shot. So I had to go around. Had to make a, you know, it's kind of a path to get to where all the speakers needed to be. So that's one reason I went with 12 gauge. 14 gauge is usually just fine. I just went a little above and beyond. Doesn't, you know, wasn't much of a price increase. All the white wires here going to the Atmos channels. All right, we've got 4 dedicated circuits here. We've got 3 20 amp circuits. So we got one here, one there, one there. And if you're wondering why I don't have like a triple gain box, it's because Lowe's didn't have them with all the end of world catastrophes going on. You know, I needed adjustable boxes, and so I just made it work. We've got a 30 amp. This can be wired for 120 or 120/240, whichever, you know, depending on what we do in the future, what kind of amps we're running. Speaking of amps, gear in this room, we've got a JVC, an NX7, or actually the professional version, the RS2000 going right there. It's gonna be mounted where that little blocking is right there from a strong mount, going through that hole, and we'll have a little glass up there to kind of hide it. Now it's gonna be sealed off in this closet, sorta. You know, the ceiling up here is not actually gonna be like a solid, or air will be able to pass through it basically. So there's a vent that supplies the equipment room, and I'll tee off of that and feed this room here too, or feed this little area where the projector is. Now my kids, they are hell on projectors. The last one we had a Sony 55ES, and over 5 years I went through 4 lamps, and I'm talking 5,000 or 6,000 hours per lamp. I don't know if you guys know how much a JVC projector lamp is, but it's, you know, $500, $600 per lamp, and that's not happening. You know, this is not a $150 lamp like I was able to do in the Sonys. So I'll probably get another projector just for them, or if I'm reviewing one, I may work something out where I keep it or buy it from, you know, if I find one I like that's pretty decent, has cheap lamps, and I'll mount it up there next to this JVC. And I'm probably gonna go ahead and mount another mount up there anyway, just for review. So if we get a projector into review on the channel, we can kind of go head to head with the JVC NX7. Of course, like I said, it's the RS2000. It's the same thing as the NX7 with just a gold ring around the lens. All right, so that's the projector. The screen is going to be a Seymour Screen Excellence 150-inch diagonal 16:9, and it's probably going to have the magnetic masking. So I'm working on Seymour with that. They're actually sponsoring the channel with that screen. Seats are going to be the Valencia Tuscany in brown. So looking forward to those. I've had Seatcraft in the past, which I loved, held up great. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the Valencia stack up. So in here, Amplification is sponsored by Tone Winner. We're gonna have, you know, enough amps to push all of these speakers. This is a 9.1.6. Of course, I'm not gonna be supplying the sub, but all the loudspeakers, Tone Winners is gonna be supplying the power, which I'm looking forward to trying them out. I've had several clients that have used them, you know, because I mean, I've been getting a lot of positive feedback, and everyone's loved them so far. I mean, they're very affordable, a lot of power for the money, and you know, sometimes people don't want to give a new brand a chance, but hey, it's good, clean power, and it does the job at a great price. So I'm looking forward to trying those guys out. So while we're talking about sponsors, let's go ahead and talk about the room itself. Originally, we were gonna have the medieval theme in here. So with the price of, you know, materials going up, sonotube is freaking ridiculous. The stuff I was gonna need for the columns for the medieval theme, PVC and sonotube, is just, it's ridiculous price-wise right now. And time-wise, you know, we're trying to get in this house as fast as we can, so I wanted something a little faster, so I started looking and I found a room design I liked, and I butchered it in paint and moved some stuff around, and this is kind of what I've come up with. So Fabric Mate has actually agreed to supply the track in the room, so we're actually going to give them a try. And I mean, their fabric track is actually very affordable, and I'm gonna start pushing this in room plans too, because sometimes my clients, you know, if there's a speaker like here, right here is a Silversat 4 going in right there. If something ever happens to a speaker, you want to easily be able to remove the fabric instead of having to tear the whole wall out, pull columns out, and all that kind of stuff. With the old school way, the fabric track makes it to where you can just pull the fabric right down and then you can put it back up. So I'm kind of looking forward to that as an option for my room plan clients. But so yeah, we're working with them, and so I'm looking forward to trying that track out. And it's pretty affordable. It's really not that bad compared to some of the competition out there. So as you see, I went with the new construction brackets, and this was just because I wanted to, you know, with the spray foam going in, I had a little special circumstances where we need to make sure we don't have too much foam in some of these spots. We've got wides right here. They're actually a 6-inch speaker, but with the fabric and everything, that's gonna, you won't see it. And we've got an angled section that's going in right here after the sheetrock is up, and that's why, you know, you see the main right, the cable's just hanging, or the wire. Right here's our gold LCR going in there, the Beast. So gonna have 3 of those up front. You know, alcoves for the, well, I guess the real Beast, Godzilla's in the room. The GSG Devastators. I mean, we're gonna have enough output where we could scare the neighbors, which are like 2 miles down the road. All right, so of course we've got the gold LCR up front. Everything else is gonna be silver, the silver line. This is actually one of my favorite packages. So we're gonna have a silver right here. This is our wide, and it's perfectly placed. The angle is perfect. I mean, it just works spectacular for that position. And it has the exact same drivers as the Silversat 4 does, and the exact same drivers in the satellite, which is just like an in-room Silversat. And we're gonna have the same speaker right here, Silversat. This wall is deep enough where I'm gonna be able to turn it. So I've got one there, one there. We've got another rear going right there, or I'm sorry, top rear going up there. And it's gonna be hanging between the studs, those studs right there, not gonna affect it in any way. I've already worked all that out, and once they're up there, you know, it'll make a lot more sense. This beam, we're gonna cover it, and so those little sections that kind of pop out, they're actually gonna pop out below it, and I'm gonna have LED lights on top. And this front half, we've gotta hide those in-room speakers that are hanging down on brackets up here. So we're gonna have like a floating ceiling here as well that's gonna have LED lights. So when you walk in, you'll see a motion switch right here that's gonna pick it up when you walk in, and also when you walk around the seats on this side, it's gonna turn everything on. We got a riser. You walk in, you'll step up 6 inches here, you'll walk around, and you'll step down right there and over there. And so we've got the lips are gonna light up, that's gonna light up, and these little 2 sections here are gonna light up. So I think that's gonna look pretty cool. And then of course we've got for overhead lighting, we've got front lights and rear lights. The lights I'm using are actually kind of inset into the can assembly, so they have a very tight pattern of light. So we'll be able to use our backlights if we want to eat or something like that. We can use our backlights back here without washing out the screen, which is something I've done on my last 2 theaters, and is really important because I don't want to be in the dark trying to, you know, eat while watching something. Oh, and before I forget, you'll see 2 vents up there. So the plan spec'd for 2 7-inch vents, and those were 7x7 square vents. And 7 times 7 is 49, right? So we had basically 50 square inches of grill up there. Now the problem with a home theater is, you know, you've got to get that velocity down coming through those vents, because when the AC kicks on, you don't want to hear you don't want to hear anything. You don't want to even know it's on. So I've gone with a 10x10 for both of those. So we have 2 10x10s. Of course, 10x10 is 100. We had 50. Now we've doubled it to 100 square inches at the grill. So now we're not going to hear that velocity has been slowed down. We're not going to hear that hissing sound as the air, you know, comes out of the vent. We're slowing it down. You do lose some of the directivity, but it's okay. But we have no heat load in this room. It's all in the equipment closet and the projector back there. So the air, I'll angle the vents right in front of the seats. It'll get pulled back this way through that door with the return up there. So we're not going to have any heating and cooling problems in this room whatsoever. And of course up there, the return is also gonna be oversized. So you can do that. It's really cheap. You don't have to go through all the work of building elaborate boxes and stuff like that for your HVAC system. You can just oversize your, the boxes you buy from the supply house itself. All right guys, so that's gonna be it. I gotta get on installing some bathroom vents and finishing up the installation. So I gotta get all that done, or especially the vents, gotta get that done before the spray foam guys do their thing next week. So don't forget to hit the notification bell, or subscribe, then hit the notification bell so you know the next videos come out. And also you can see how that's gonna work out with some of the stuff we've got going on in here and the future projects. Hit that like. YouTube likes it when you like a video. They push it a little harder, and there's a lot of good information on this channel. Just go ahead and spread the word. I'll see you guys next time.